Somebody fed this child, bathed him, cut his hair, trimmed his nails, and then beat him to death and left him in a cardboard box on the side of a road like trash. For 65 years, police knew everything about how he died and nothing about who he was. Not his name, not his family, not a single person who ever claimed him. 500,000 flyers went out with his face on them. Hundreds of tips poured in, and still, nobody came forward. How does a child simply vanish from the memory of an entire city? Tonight, we're going to find out exactly what happened to the boy nobody claimed, and why, even after finally learning his name, his killer is still out there. This is Philadelphia, February of 1957. Cold, damp, unremarkable weather for the season. In the Fox Chase neighborhood, on the edge of the city, there's a patch of woods off Susquehanna Road that locals use as an informal dumping ground. Old furniture, broken appliances, the kind of place nobody looks twice. A young man checking illegal rabbit traps in that brush finds something he wishes he hadn't. He doesn't call the police. He's afraid they'll confiscate his traps. So he walks away, and he says nothing. For a few more days, the boy in the box is alone in the woods, exactly as he'll remain, in a sense, for the next 65 years. It takes a college student out looking for something else entirely to finally bring the world's attention to that lot. He sees movement in the underbrush, a rabbit, and he stops the car. That's when he finds the box. A cardboard container, the kind that once held a baby's bassinet from JCPenney. Inside it, wrapped in a faded plaid blanket, is a small boy, nude, bruised, already gone. The student is hesitant, uneasy about involving himself. But the next day, after hearing about a missing girl in New Jersey, something in him shifts, and he calls it in. On February 26th, Philadelphia police open a homicide investigation, and what the medical examiner finds only deepens the horror. This child, estimated to be somewhere between 4 and 6 years old, weighs just 30 pounds. He's severely malnourished. His small body is covered in bruises, the result of repeated, sustained beatings. The cause of death: blunt force trauma to the head. Someone did this to him, deliberately, and more than once. But here's where the case stops making sense. Because this same starved, battered child has been recently bathed. His nails have been trimmed. His hair has been freshly cut, so freshly that loose clumps are still clinging to his skin, suggesting it happened right around the time he died. There are old surgical scars on his ankle and his groin, and a strange L-shaped scar beneath his chin. Someone starved this boy and beat this boy, but someone also, at some point, cared for this boy, fed him, took him to a doctor, groomed him one final time, before discarding him like the box he was found in. Investigators are confident, at first, that this will be a quick case. Someone has to be missing this child. So Philadelphia does something almost unimaginable in scale for 1957. 270 police academy recruits comb the lot inch by inch. The Inquirer prints 400,000 flyers with the boy's face. Circulars go out to every physician in the city, to police departments across the eastern seaboard, and in a detail that still unsettles people today, inside 300,000 gas and electric bills, so that every household paying their utilities that month opens an envelope and finds a dead child staring back at them. And still, nothing. By April, hundreds of tips have come in, hundreds of letters. Not one of them leads anywhere. No parent steps forward. No neighbor recognizes him. No doctor claims to have treated those old surgical scars. It's as if this child simply didn't exist before the day he was found dead. as if an entire community looked straight through him while he was alive. The case goes cold, but it doesn't go forgotten, not to everyone. A medical examiner's employee named Remington Bristow becomes obsessed. Genuinely, personally obsessed, in a way that consumes the next 36 years of his life. In 1960, acting on a tip from a psychic, of all things, Bristow tracks down a foster home 1.5 miles from where the boy was found. At an estate sale there, years later, he spots a bassinet box like the one from the scene, and blankets on a clothesline that look just like the one the child was wrapped in. He becomes convinced the boy lived in that house, the secret son of the homeowner's unmarried stepdaughter, disposed of to hide a scandal. He carries that theory almost to his grave in 1993. Police investigated. They interview the family, and ultimately, DNA rules the stepdaughter out as the mother. Another door closes. Other stories surface over the decades, each one stranger than the last. In 2002, a woman known only as Martha comes forward claiming her own mother purchased a boy from his birth parents in 1954 and beat him to death in a fit of rage. Police find her account disturbing enough to investigate, but they can never verify it, and former neighbors call it ridiculous. A forensic artist later proposes something else entirely, that the child may have been raised as a girl, based on his hastily cut hair and shaped eyebrows. A promising DNA lead from Memphis, Tennessee, pursued for years, is finally, quietly ruled out in 2017. Every path, it seems, leads back to the same place, nowhere. For decades, this boy is buried not under his own name, but under a title given to him by strangers. America's unknown child. That's what's carved into his headstone at Ivy Hill Cemetery, a grave the public keeps decorated with flowers and toys year after year, for a child none of them ever met. Then, in 2019, something changes. Investigators exhume his remains a second time, not for a new theory, but for a new kind of science. Investigative genetic genealogy, the same forensic technique that had recently cracked cases like the Golden State Killer. It takes another 2.5 years of painstaking work. A distant cousin's DNA uploaded to a public database. A closer relative asked to submit her own sample. A slow, careful climb up a family tree that no one had ever been able to trace before. And on December 8th, 2022, 65 years, 9 months, and 13 days after he was found, Philadelphia police finally say his name out loud. Joseph Augustus Zarelli. Born January 13th, 1953. 4 years old when he died. It should feel like an ending. It doesn't, because naming a victim is not the same as naming a killer. Joseph's biological parents, it turns out, were never even a couple, and both were already dead by the time his name resurfaced. Which raises the question investigators still can't answer. If these two people didn't raise him, then who did? Who fed him just enough to keep him alive, took him for medical care when it suited them, and then beat him to death and left him on the side of a road like garbage? Somewhere, quite possibly, someone alive today knows exactly what happened to Joseph Zarelli. A former neighbor, a relative who never spoke up, someone now in their 70s or 80s, carrying a secret older than most people's entire lives. Police say they have suspicions. They won't say more than that. The case remains open, active, unresolved. For 65 years, this boy had no name. Now he has one. What he still doesn't have is justice. And that, more than anything else about this case, is the part that refuses to let go.